Choujin X Chapter 41 Part 1. Now, for this review, we are going to dissect this chapter into two sections, first being the choice, the debate being made by Team Tokyo, and then following into the action-packed DDT, Tokyo versus Palma. Now, picking up from where we left off, Palma was forced to inject herself with the new and improved Zember, which now not only just turns one into a Choujin, but now also brings back the dead. Meanwhile, Tokyo is on his reconnaissance mission looking for the opium fields when he hears Palma's Choujin call. Which brings us to our track's fork. Does Team Tokyo continue with their recon mission, or do we follow the Choujin call? Now, one thing I love about this series is that the further we push into the story, its themes begin to reemerge and become more layered. Now today, that theme is choice. Right off the bat, Sato tells Tokyo, pursuing the dealers comes with its own dangers. You can only choose one focus, either pursue the dealer or investigate the call. Sato also reminds Tokyo that we are here because of your plan, so we can call for backup and continue to focus on Zora. Now ultimately, Tokyo's instinct pushes him to prioritize the call. However, Michael, our telepath Choujin, isn't the most confident about this change in course, but Sato vouches for Tokyo and gives credit towards his intuition. And I think this adds more depth to their history, as currently we only know that back in Iwito, there was victory, there was loss, and a lesson learned by Tokyo, which is to follow through. This brings me to our bug Choujin, Mike. Convincing Michael that Tokyo's choice is valid, Mike makes reference to a lesson from Arthur 1. When we don't know what the right decision is, we need courage and resolve. On top of this, we can take it way back to Azuma and the lesson from his father. Initially, these panels did seem ominous, and they may very well carry signs of misfortune, as not all choices lead to glorious ends. But the true lesson being taught is that you must face uncertainty head on. Echoing Tokyo's conversation with Mifune, a hesitation of choice is to lose. If you notice, none of these lessons are centered around being right or wrong. It's solely about having the courage to choose, as the only wrong thing to do would be not to act at all. Now, the beautiful contradiction in this lesson is that the two main groups of the story, Yamato Mori and the Tower, follow prophecy, which doesn't rely on choice, but obedience. These groups do not actually face the uncertainty of their prophecies, they submit their faith to it. Now, as far as why our characters make their choices, we could tie that back to their trauma. Now, as far as Tokyo goes, we already know, bruh. Iwito has left my man scarred. If I make one mistake, that equals death. If I hesitate, that equals death. My man's lost all of his friends that he made back in Iwito, and he's trying to prevent that again. And Michael, our psychic Choujin, has his reasons for not wanting to go through with this audible. Just one look at the tower gave Michael flashbacks to the traumatic incident of Zora versus Yamato Mori. He wants to prevent this from happening again, therefore he wants to keep a low profile and continue with the recon mission. And Mike, our bug Choujin, gives us his stance through a little lore slice, which also ties in previous chapters relating to our current situation. Mike tells us about the Great Collapse and how if help would have came a few minutes earlier, his family may still have survived. We also learned that Momoma's dad was involved in this situation as well, which ties us back to the Shiozaki arc. In that moment, Tokyo senses Shiozaki's cries through his chaotic state. Tokyo then asks Momoma to force him into a raise, and this courage reminds her of her father. Now, I do not believe that Momoma's dad is dead, because later on she does say that her father is a Choujin, not was a Choujin. But I do think it is cool that we find ourselves back in this situation, though we are replacing Shiozaki with Palma. Once again, Tokyo is displaying the unique ability to sense the humanity within the chaos. We also know that at this point, Tokyo is not trying to take out this beast. He hears the pleas and he is attempting to save her. However, where this ends is still up for grabs, because Tokyo's W streak has to end at some point. We also have Michael and Michelangelo on their own, so we do not know how capable they are in this situation. And on top of all of that, the No Mask is still around lurking. Another drop that I thought was really cool was the Sandek reference and how Sato believes that Tokyo could be the successor to Sandek. This is interesting because it's also a slight reference back to the Shiozaki arc. After Tokio successfully saves Shiozaki, Sandek declares him a bona fide Choujin. This does plant the seed of Tokio's belief within himself, but at the same time, we can now start to see the difference between Sandek and Tokio. Sandek is tied to the rules of the prophecy motto and preventing anything that threatens her order, whereas Tokio is a free thinker and wants to hear both sides. On one end, we have Sandek, who could lose himself in the pursuit of law and order, similar to Azuma, and on the other, Tokio, who may lose himself in the attempt to be a savior to all.